According to the Mayan calendar, 2012 was supposed to be the year the world ended. As you can probably tell, it didn't, but perhaps some wrestling fans were wishing it would after sitting through these awful WWE matches. 2012 wasn't all bad, of course. CM Punk was WWE Champion for the entire calendar year, which led to some really great moments and matches. The Shield debuted at Survivor Series, which would have huge ramifications over the next decade, and The Undertaker and Triple H put on a sensational Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania, which was definitely the last time they or Shawn Michaels were ever involved in a match together. Ever. Don't Google that. But we're not here to talk about any of the fun stuff. Instead, we are here for the matches that made our toes curl, our stomachs turn, and our brains question why we even started watching wrestling in the first place. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 worst WWE matches of 2012. Join us. Number 10, John Cena vs. Brock Lesnar at Extreme Rules. Brock Lesnar gave the wrestling world one of its biggest moments in 2012 when he made his return to WWE after 8 years away. After winning the UFC Heavyweight Championship and doing a bit less well in the NFL, the Beast made a thunderous return to wrestling when he confronted John Cena on the Raw after WrestleMania. This set the stage for a matchup of epic proportions, Lesnar vs. Cena at Extreme Rules with no disqualifications. Lesnar had to win, right? He was a guy with legitimate fighting experience in his first WWE match for nearly a decade against the guy who had just lost to The Rock in the main event of WrestleMania. Surely this was gonna be a slam dunk. Unfortunately, though, WWE didn't just miss the hoop, they managed to burst the ball and burn the stadium down all in one go. Cena beat Lesnar in a baffling booking decision that cut off Brock's momentum just weeks into his return run. The action leading up to this moment was fantastic, which is why the match is so low on this list, but the ending of the bout was utterly unforgivable. Number 9, RYBACK vs. TENSAI on Raw. Formerly Skip Sheffield of the Nexus fame, RYBACK re-debuted for WWE in April 2012 and was pushed to the moon. The guy with really big muscles got a monster push despite still being as green as grass? Doesn't sound like WWE at all. The big guy was given the Goldberg treatment, an undefeated streak with lots of short matches where he could show off what he was good at and hide what he was bad at. Much like Goldberg, RYBACK's streak ended in dumb fashion too, but we will get to that later. On the October 1st edition of Raw, Mr. Feed Me More devoured TENSAI in under 2 minutes, but still managed to make 2 quite noticeable mistakes. When he tried to hit the former Albert with his finishing move, RYBACK visibly struggled to get the big man up. He tried to get him up on his shoulders a second time, only to drop him flat on his ass before hastily winning with a clothesline. It was a sloppy finish to an already pointless match, and it added more weight to the argument that RYBACK was not yet ready for the main event. Number 8, Team Johnny vs. Team Teddy at WrestleMania 28. WWE had some pretty questionable feuds going on in 2012. John Cena versus Kane, Alberto Del Rio versus Sheamus, Natalya versus her own farts. Yes, that is a storyline that really happened. But perhaps the worst rivalry to take place that year was John Laurinaitis versus Teddy Long for control of both Raw and SmackDown. Both brands' general managers clashed for months as fans grew less and less interested with each passing second. Also, Raw and SmackDown were so similar at this point that it's difficult to work out why fans would care who was running the shows in kayfabe. This pointless storyline came to a head with a 6-on-6 tag team match at WrestleMania, where each GM's chosen champions would fight to decide which authority figure was the best. As the fans didn't give a toss about the outcome, there was absolutely no heat behind this match. The fact that it ended with The Miz pinning fan favorite Zack Ryder to give heel Laurinaitis the victory somehow made this pointless exhibition even worse. Oh, and then Eve Torres kicked Zack in the balls. That's what you get for getting yourself over online, kid. Number 7, Eve Torres versus Naomi at TLC. The pre-show of TLC 2012 featured JTG versus David Otunga and a Santa's Little Helper Battle Royal to determine the #1 contender to the Divas Championship. I'm sure pay-per-view buys skyrocketed after those all-time classics. The Battle Royal, which narrowly misses out on a place here, was won by Naomi, who punched her ticket to face Eve Torres later that night. Hopefully she kept the receipt for said ticket, because her journey was a waste of time. Whilst she's very good in the ring these days, Naomi was just a few months into her WWE career proper at this point. This match showed that, as she looked extremely unsure of herself throughout. As for Eve, she's never exactly been a ring general, and the swinging neckbreaker that she used to win the match had about as much force behind it as an autumn leaf falling pleasantly to the ground. A poor showing from a time when women's wrestling was in a real bad way. Number 6, Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 28. Hindsight makes it really hard to know where to place this match. For many, Daniel Bryan losing the World Heavyweight Championship to Sheamus in just 18 seconds was the starting point of the Yes movement. The change in attitude Bryan went through after this humiliation was what eventually led him to form Team Hell No, which raised his profile even higher. Then came the SummerSlam match with CENA, Orton's cash-in, WrestleMania 30, you know the rest. However, at the time, this match got fans absolutely fuming. After Sheamus won the Royal Rumble and chose Bryan as his opponent, the match had a good chance of being a great one. Two talented workers tearing it up on the biggest stage possible. Instead, Bryan was distracted by a kiss from AJ Lee before eating a brogue kick and then an immediate pin. Bryan was completely embarrassed, Sheamus's Rumble win felt massively undermined, and the fans were furious that this was the outcome of so much hype. It might have worked out well in the end, but this could have been a massive disaster. Number 5, Santino Marella versus Ricardo Rodriguez at No Way Out. God bless Santino Marella. He might be a little goofy, but he always puts 100% into every single stupid scenario WWE shoved him into. That being said, even he couldn't make this work. At No Way Out, the Milan Miracle went up against Ricardo Rodriguez. Whilst Ricardo did have some wrestling experience, Santino was facing a man most famous for being a ring announcer. And that says pretty much all you need to know about this match, if you even want to call it that. Aside from a brief sequence, there is very little actual wrestling here. Instead, it is two grown men trying to rip incredibly cheap-looking tuxedos off each other until one of them is left standing in his pants. And while we can certainly all agree that it's a unique stipulation, that still doesn't make for a great wrestling match. Unlucky, guys. Number 4, Cody Rhodes versus Big Show at Extreme Rules. I guess it's a bit of a shame that Cody and Paul White didn't rerun this program when they were both in AEW, as they could have put right one of the worst WWE finishes of recent years. After an age of being humiliated at WrestleMania, Big Show finally got his big moment at the Showcase of the Immortals when he beat Cody Rhodes for the IC title. The Giant must have been running about 30 days slow at the time, because he actually managed to embarrass himself at Extreme Rules instead of at Mania. Big Show absolutely dominated the American Nightmare during their rematch, throwing him around like a ragdoll, but unfortunately for the big man, this was a tables match, and all Cody needed was one lucky shot. He got that shot when he dropkicked Show off the apron. The champion stepped backwards, unaware that a table was right behind him, putting his foot through it and losing the match. So, just to wrap that all up, Big Show, whose whole story at the time was that he was finally being taken seriously after all these years, lost a championship because he accidentally stepped through a table. Just look at that face, he knows he's messed up. Number 3, CM Punk versus RYBACK at Hell in a Cell. Remember when we mentioned the rubbish ending of RYBACK's undefeated streak earlier? Well, here it is. RYBACK's run of dominance earned him a shot at CM Punk's WWE Championship inside Hell in a Cell. That meant the champ would have no help from his manager Paul Heyman, which stacked the odds firmly against him. In one of the shortest cell matches of all time, RYBACK was about to win when the referee of all people hit him right in his big guys. He then fast counted the pin, giving Punk the victory. It was later revealed that the referee, former WWE wrestler Brad Maddox, had been paid off by Heyman to ensure Punk's victory. Whilst this sort of explained Brad's actions, the damage done to RYBACK was irreversible irreversible. Having his undefeated streak end in such a lame way killed all his momentum stone dead, and he would never taste main event success again. Considering their options were either to have Punk lose the title or RYBACK lose his streak, it's a bit of a wonder that WWE even booked this match in the first place. Number 2, John Cena versus Michael Cole on Raw. Do I really need to explain why this match was bad? Just listen to that title again. John Cena versus Michael Cole. This was Cena at his most Cena-iest and Cole at his unbearable heel worst in an actual sanctioned match on Monday Night Raw. In another instance of two grown men ripping off each other's clothes, Cena stripped Cole down to his undies, embarrassing the former war correspondent in front of millions. He then proceeded to cover Cole with barbecue sauce, blast him with a fire extinguisher, and win the match. Honestly, we're not sure if it would have been better or worse if Cole actually pinned Cena after TENSAI ran interference. The character of heel Michael Cole was annoying, but Michael Cole the person didn't deserve this, and nor did us fans. Number 1, John Laurinaitis versus John Cena at Over the Limit. Imagine John Laurinaitis versus John Cena, then put it on pay-per-view, and then have the non-wrestler win. Does that sound suitably horrible? Good, because it was. After Johnny Ace had been butting heads with Cena for about a year or so, it was finally decided that the two Johns should meet face to face in the ring, with the stipulation that if he lost, John Laurinaitis was fired. Now, we've all since accepted that John Cena is a great wrestler, but he's not the sort of elite level talent that can drag a great match out of absolutely anyone. He can have an amazing bout with a great opponent, but 50-year-old John Laurinaitis was not a great opponent. In fact, the last time he had been a regular in-ring competitor was 12 years prior. So for 17 agonizing minutes, Cena beat the ever-loving snot out of his boss before Big Show arrived, turned heel for the 465th time in his career, and cost Cena the match. Not only was the match itself long and tedious, not only was the final angle utterly nonsensical, not only does John bloody Laurinaitis have more pinfall wins over John Cena than Miro does, but it also main evented Over the Limit ahead of Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk for the WWE Championship. 2012, folks. What a year it was.